Welcome back to Champion News Talk Radio, brought to you by championnews.net. This is Carol Parisi, our founder, Jack Roser, and myself. We have Bruno Behrand, and we were talking a lot during the break. And, okay, Bruno, tax dollars. It's the citizens' tax dollars that pay for all of these schools and roofs and AstroTurf. Right. How about school choice?
Well, this is where we have to make the case, and we have to do a better job than we've been doing. Our conservatives or free market people or people who believe in education reform, and a lot of Democrats are starting to believe in education reform now too, because they're seeing how expensive and how failed the big urban school districts have become. But the fact is, you mentioned earlier talking about soccer moms. We have to go to people and make the case that our ideas and our system is better than the current system. That a system that hires too many people, has too many people on payroll that aren't really doing that much, that says that the staffing level looks like they have 16 students per classroom, when in fact they have 20 students per classroom when you really count the numbers.
But
all the different scams.
Do you know who they hurt? Because I know people that work in the school district, and a lot of these people are the teachers' aides. And believe me, the teachers' aides actually work very, very hard, especially with the BD kids and all of this. They work really, really hard. They get $10
They
an
use
hour.
shovels? What's this hard work?
Well,
They're
they
nice
change
warm
diapers.
rooms.
They change diapers on...
Oh, you're in a real lower grade. So
No, I'm talking about there are kids that are like in 5th and 6th grade that are
well, you're talking
challenged.
you're talking about special education. You're talking about teachers. You're talking about teachers' aides. But this is, Caroline, this is why we have to step back a little bit and kind of completely unwind the existing system and start looking at it. So, for example, how should a special education child, whether, let's say it's somebody who's brilliant, who really can accelerate faster, a gifted child, or whether it's someone who's, Asperger's syndrome or something, what is the best way to educate that person? We have every goofy idea in the world. Let's put that person in the classroom with 30 quote unquote or 15 or 20 quote unquote normal kids, and I'm using the term normal,
right.
as a marker, so to speak. But that makes no sense. If you have a special needs child, you say, here's a special needs voucher, here's a special needs tax credit, and you can take your child to the special needs that a school or service that actually meets their special needs, instead of trying to have, look at what they do. They have a special education system, then they have a special education bureaucracy, then they have a gifted system and a gifted bureaucracy, and then they have coordinators coordinating that bureaucracy and directors directing the coordinators. It's not an education system.
It's too much of a bureaucratic...
It's a jobs machine.
It's a social system.
Yes, it's a social system for the employees and the children. As God is my witness, dear soccer mom, your child, is an afterthought. And the way they keep the soccer moms on the reservation is screaming about spending. We're spending $12,000. We're spending this much. You can't do it.
Michael, I hear you. I know you want to say something.
Yeah, because,
Michael, you're a homeschooler.
I'm a homeschooler.
Full disclosure here. Michael's a homeschooler.
I am.
Dad.
The whole structure of public school and the unions, they get their money only through union dues. So the more they can expand, the more they can bring more people into this structure, the more people they're going to have coming into the union dues.
Well, clearly, that's the entire reason for the class size push of the starting in the late 80s, reducing class size. Jack, you've been following this as long as anybody. It's not anything to do with let's get class size down so the children can get a better education. It's to say, let's get class size down so we can employ more people. And that's
purely it. You take class size. Let's take homeschooling.
Class size of 1. Or 2.
Or 2 or 3.
Well, take homeschooling. It costs about $500 a year out of pocket. You could spend maybe a little more. You can take kids to local YMCA and get them in other activities or whatever. But for about $500 a year, you can do a far better job in the schools. In all the contests there's spelling or anything else. The homeschoolers always win all the places in it, and they get it done. So that works. The parents Well, take my own granddaughter. She was homeschooled for 4 years. She went the rest to a religious grade school and went to a religious high school. She graduated with honors out of a huge university as an engineer. So there you go. Pretty much done that early part done at much less cost to the taxpayer.
See,
class size is what Bruno says is right. You got this ratio typically of 12 kids per teacher to 16. Well, it's out in the class size ranges from 20 to 35 in the public system, and they look at 35 with horror. I can tell you, my son Tom was in grade school in Park Ridge. Now, Park Ridge is not a clown town. There's a lot of people there that are very smart, and it's a well-to-do town, and they aren't going to tolerate junk anywhere.
Hillary Clinton comes from Park Ridge.
And, well, I lived
Don't hold that against you.
Well, you just said don't tolerate junk. Okay, I'm
well,
only kidding.
because you may think that we were poor jerks because in the school that Tom went to, there were 55 kids in the class.
What year was that?
Well, that's easy.
Probably the 60s, late 50s.
We got to go back 50 years.
Yeah, but here, this is to Jack's point. Look, Ani,
let me finish.
Ahead.
It's dramatic. 50 kids in a class. It was a Catholic school, and they had about 1,000 kids in this thing. The teacher, Mrs. Clary, in 4th grade, took 5 kids and taught them 5th grade and skipped them into 6th. So I was asked to go to the school and talk to the sister superior to see if the parent wanted him skipped or not. So I go over there and I get there while classes are still on, and the lights in the hall are off. All of the rooms are full, excepting the headquarters of the school. There's nobody there, and the lights are off. All the classrooms are running. So pretty soon comes this female General MacArthur, about 5 feet tall, and points at me, turns on the lights, and says, "Read that book at that marked chapter. It'll tell you pros and cons about skipping your child." I read it and said, I think, go ahead and skip them. She says, "Thank you. You're the parent. You have that decision. Goodbye."
Well, and you see, this is so inside that little story that Jack told. Look at all the different important things to remember. Number one, he chose an education for his child that he wanted. Number two, they did ability grouping and they let people skip. If a child is ready to learn something at a 5th grade level when he's in 3rd grade, and they keep him in a 3rd grade class with a bunch of people that are all over the map on whether they're ahead or behind or whatever, along with all the special ed kids, these are all left-wing social experiments that, quite frankly, are a proven failure. There's no more ability grouping when there should be. There's no more parental say when there should be. And
no. You know, my son goes to public school. He was in a public school. We're in a private school for gifted. Then we pulled him out, put him in the public school, and then he got asked to be in the gifted. And I didn't know if I wanted to put him in gifted.
Sure.
And the principal was great. She said, "Carol, if he was on the other side of the spectrum, wouldn't you want us to do everything we could to facilitate?" They were very helpful in making. I got to make the decision.
Okay,
I didn't have to put
Carol,
him.
I understand that I understand that, especially in the conservative, movement, so to speak, sometimes people talking about reforms overstate cases. No one's saying all teachers are bad or all principals don't listen to the parent. The fact is the system doesn't really care that much about what the parents want. Okay. And millions of parents across this country have walked into classrooms and saying, "I want my children to learn how to read using phonics," because phonics works and balanced illiteracy doesn't. But the schools don't sit there and say, "Oh, you get to have phonics or you get to have this." No, it's one size fits all. It is extremely expensive. It is designed to hire people and employ people, not to educate kids. And I can give you tens of examples across the spectrum of charter schools, private schools, and school choice. And the way to do this is to have the money follow the child. That's the easiest answer.
And keep in mind,
incidentally, that's all God's truth that He's run off a very
Carol Ann
good
wants to
review
debate me here
of the
she's-
dysfunctional.
No. We're going to go to
public
break
system.
here, but Michael wants to say something. Don't want to debate
keep
you.
in mind, two of the things that the schools have been doing for a while. One, they really work to strip the parents of their parental authority. In second grade, they'll tell your kids it is illegal for your parents to spank you.
We're going to come back after the break.